So traditionally, people use DaVinci Resolve as a color grading tool only. So I'm going to take you through the two most common ways to get your footage in and out of Resolve. So the first method is bake and blade, where you export a single file from your editor, bring it into Resolve, scene cut it, color it, and then export it back into your editor. The second method is called all raw round trip, where you're pretty much exporting an XML or AAF from your editor, and then you're onlining it in Resolve by linking it back to Camera Original. All right, guys, so let's start our first module, Conform. And before we get into the DaVinci Resolve portion of it, I want to take you through a little extra credit exercise. I included a Premiere Pro project file along with the footage if you want to follow along. And I can show you right here in the folder structure. If you go under Conform, under NAB Resolve 16, you're going to find this transcoded folder, and up top in labeled green, you can pick up this file right here. And if you open this up in Premiere Pro, everything is going to be offline. But once you direct it to the first clip, everything is going to come back live, and then you'll be ready to go. And it's going to look like this in your Premiere Pro. And what's happening here is, as I said, this is extra credit. You don't have to do it. You can just pick it up once we're in Resolve. But this is for a lot of people out there that are having issues bringing in their footage from their editor, whether it's Final Cut 10, Final Cut 7, Avid, or Premiere Pro. They don't really know what happens to the footage going from here into Resolve and how to properly do it. So I'm going to show you all the ways, the right ways, the wrong ways, my recommended ways. You're going to see everything. But I'm going to start it off inside Premiere Pro. So let's just say this is what we got. We want to take this into Resolve. So the first thing that we're going to do is this edit right here. Let's just say that this is approved by your director and it's ready to go. So what we call this version in the post-production world is that this is a picture locked cut. Okay, so this sequence right here is picture locked. We're not changing anything. All the shots are locked in. Everything else is locked in. This is good to go for color. So now what I would highly recommend you do is go under edit and find this cut, which is right here. So the first thing that you're going to do, and this applies to any editor. If you're in Avid, if you're in Final Cut, the same rule applies, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it and paste it. And once I create a new version, I'm going to do _2 Resolve, okay? So just follow along. This is very important. I'm also going to create a folder. Guys, I like to keep everything very organized because you're going to thank yourself down the road, and anyone else who jumps on the project is going to thank you for it. So this is what I do. I'm going to call it 04 color. And under 04 color, I'm going to create another bin, and I'm going to call it 2 Resolve. And then we're going to call another one from Resolve. Okay. So this is how you set up your project structure. And when I'm working on these big gigs for whoever it is that I'm working for, this is how I'm setting it up. And that's sort of like an industry standard pipeline. So now I'm going to move my 2 Resolve into 2 Resolve folder right here. So now we know that, hey, let's not mess with this. Leave this as is. Let's just double click and open this guy up. And this is the one that we want to send to Resolve and then go from there. So now, number one step before you export this to Resolve, and there's different ways to go about it. The first way that we're tackling is called round tripping, where we're going to send an XML, which is going to be an editable file that we're going to open up inside Resolve, which is going to reference Camera Original files to get us the highest quality clips inside Resolve. And it's also going to give us the flexibility to have our handles on each clip. So when we export it back into Premiere from Resolve, if tomorrow a director or producer wants to make some editorial changes and there's little slips and slides that we want to do, we will be able to do that. So the flexibility that you get with round tripping is major, and a lot of people prefer round trip for that reason. Nothing is baked in. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to export a reference file. And reference file is basically whatever we see right here with the graphics and everything. We want to leave it as is, and we want to export this version so then in Resolve, we can match it to our XML and make sure that nothing is slipping or sliding and everything is in place, and all the positioning and speed ramps and everything looks good. So this is our reference point. So what we want to do is let's just go ahead and export a light version. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a H.264, and usually I just do 720p Vimeo version. So let's just go in here to our output, and let's just create a folder here and call it color. And then we're just going to call it to Resolve and from Resolve. We're trying to mimic the folder structure that we got going on in our editor. So now let's just click on to Resolve, and then this is already appropriately named. But what we want is that this is going to be a reference. So we're going to do _ref, and that's basically our offline reference. Okay. So the whole sequence is selected. Everything is looking good. Let's just go ahead and export this, and it's going to go pretty fast, I hope. Okay, so this is exported and we are ready to go. So the thing that I want to show you first is the rookie way, which is basically what most people do when they first start out sending stuff to Resolve. And what I mean by that is this is our timeline that's picture locked in Premiere Pro. And when we export this out to Resolve, we export it as is. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So basically we go here, we do export, and now we're going to do Final Cut Pro XML. Okay, so follow along. This is important. We're going to go back into to Resolve. We're going to leave the name as is, and we're going to say save. Okay, don't worry about this. It always gives you this message. Disregard it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our Resolve, and we're going to open up Conform Start. And then once I'm inside here, I want to do somewhat of a similar thing, like where I want to create some folders here. So usually what I do is I create a folder called footage, and then I create another folder called offline ref, and I create another folder called timeline. So let's just keep it super simple, keep it like this, okay? So let's go under footage. Actually, let's go under timeline and switch over to your edit page. And here what you want to do is right click, timeline, import XML, and let's navigate into our conform folder, nab16 under color, to color, and then here's our XML. So follow along. And this is what we want to open up. So we open it up. It gives us these options. Now, in this case, I was working with raw footage in Premiere, so I don't need to online the footage here. I was already working with all my camera original footage. So I'm gonna keep these selected, okay? So automatically set project settings, automatically import source clip. So basically it's gonna reference the camera original files because that's what I was using in Premiere Pro. Use sizing information. I wanted to bring in any repos that I did in Premiere Pro. I wanted to bring those in inside Resolve. So let's hit OK and see what happens. It says 14 of 14 clips were not yet found. Let's do a deep search. Anytime you see that, you can always try doing a deep search. And now let's go look for our project under, let's keep diving in until we find it. And it's under here, course material, conform, nab16, and here is everything. So let's see if it finds anything. It did find 2. And at that point, let's hit OK. Let's go in here. And now it's telling us anything that's in green is good. It came through. Anything that's in yellow, it's either misplaced or it didn't come through. And we're going to see what's happening with that right now. So just hit close. That's okay. We can always go back and fix those things. So don't worry about that. I'm going to make this smaller so you guys can see what is happening. Let's do this. And that way we can see our timeline. I'm also going to pull this up a little bit so we can just buy ourselves a little bit more real estate. Good. So the reason why I call this the rookie method is for this exact reason. So as you see all these files didn't come through because these are exported from After Effects. And anytime you mix graphics with XML, graphic files with XML, there's always something weird happens. And then also see what is happening on this screen right here. This does not look like how stuff look like in inside Premiere, and let's just do one more thing. So we brought in our XML. Let's just make sure that everything lines up accurately. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to right click. We're going to go back to media. We are going to go back to our conform nav 16 color to color. And here is our offline reference. So what I want you to do, this is important. You're going to right click on your offline reference and you're going to say add as offline reference clip. That is important. And you got to see that little checkerboard. And that is important to do that. And I'll show you why. Because now if we go back to our timeline, let's also keep it all nice and clean. So what I want to do is I want to grab all my clips and move them under footage. So then that way timeline is under timeline, offline reference is under offline reference, footage is under footage. Now, if you right click on your timeline, you can select this. So you can go under timeline and say link offline reference clip. And this is the offline reference clip that we just added. So once you add that, okay, so what is happening now? Nothing is happening right now. And what I mean by that is you have to click on this guy right here and select offline. And then as soon as you select offline, now if you look at to the left side, that is our offline that we exported from Premiere Pro. And we want to match that to the right side, this side, okay? And see if everything is matching, or if it's not matching, we can clearly see that there. What I want to show you is this is what you want to select. So this is the sauce, guys. If something is off, the best way to see if the repo is off or whatnot, select difference. And difference is going to tell you how close you are to your match. So let's just start going through from the start. So obviously, let's just turn it off for a second and see what's happening. If we see what's happening on the left side to the right side, and it did not translate that repositioning from Premiere into Resolve, how we expected. Now, the reason why all these graphics are offline is because we were using dynamic linking in After Effects, and these weren't rendered out. These were references to the After Effects file. So there is no way that you can link this inside DaVinci Resolve, because the dynamic linking is native to the Adobe Suite and it doesn't get translated to DaVinci Resolve. And this is why this method is the rookie method. And next method, I'm going to show you how to properly prep your footage before you send it to Resolve. But these were the things that I wanted to show you, that this is super common and it's normal and it happens. And when it does happen, you should know what is really going on and why this footage is missing, and nothing to worry about. So this is the thing that you need to understand when it comes to round tripping, that this is the most common issue that you're going to be dealing with. When it comes to stuff, B-roll and graphics, these are the challenges that you're going to be facing with the round trip. Let's just go in here and see what we need to do to get it in that ballpark. So a lot of the times you're just going to be manually doing it and see when it makes sense. And here I'm going to try to match it. And it's like the darker it gets, then the match is on point. So that is pretty close. Now we're going to go to the second bit, like go all the way to the end. And again, you're just going to have to punch in and find that spot. So now we have a pretty close match. So now if I go back and just turn the wipe off, and now if I just play it through, you can see to your left that it's matching. It's pretty on point. Okay. So this is a pretty good match. Now let's move on. So obviously we know the problem with that one. So we're just not going to deal with it, because this is what I was talking about. After Effects is not translating any of that. Nothing from After Effects is coming through. So the next method is going to be where I'm going to show you how to properly prep your footage and send it through to Resolve. This is pretty bang on. So let's leave that there. This is a pretty good match. Let's leave that there. These are great. This matches. We are not going to worry about the graphics. Everything else matches. Okay, now these don't match. What is happening here? So you see, because this was a transcoded clip, it's adding some weird translation properties that are just not accurate, and it's completely off. So what we need to do is, let's just click right here and reset everything, and then come down here under scaling and set it to fill. Okay, and just by looking at the two, I feel like we're pretty close, or maybe we just like nailed it. We're pretty close, not there totally, but we're almost there. So let's see what we need to do. So there you go. So now let's go to this one. Same thing. So now that we know what we did that worked from here to here, this has the exact same issue that this clip had. So let me show you $1 million trick. And instead of you manually redoing this, you don't have to do that. Just do Command C, copy this clip. And what we want to copy is the transform and scaling properties. So now that we copy this clip, we come here and we do Option V, or you can do paste attribute, right click and paste attribute. And then what we want to do is we want to check these off and we want to translate the positioning, the zoom. So basically the one thing that didn't come through, I believe, is scaling. So let's just go ahead and fill it in. And now let's go to difference and see if we are close. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, so in this case, we didn't need to modify the position attributes. So this is spot on. Okay, so both of these are good. Moving on. This is looking good. This is good. This is good. This is not good. So the trend that we're seeing is that the positioning attributes are not translating 100% from Premiere. They are awfully off. So let's just go ahead and try to match it. Okay, and then punch in. Same thing. So that's a pretty good match. Moving along. Okay, so besides the graphics, which was the rookie move, and we didn't prep our sequence in Premiere Pro, so this stuff is offline. But besides those, everything else, we had to do some manual repoing on our images. Those didn't translate through. And then some of the stuff that was transcoded had some issues with positioning, and we adjusted that. And now we are ready to grade our footage. And then once we finish grading our footage, we can export it back to Premiere Pro, and we'll be good to go. Now let's look at the pro way of sending your stuff from Premiere Pro to Resolve. Now what I want to do is I want to go into that timeline and call it rookie. So that is our rookie timeline. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Premiere, and what I want to show you this time is let's prep our footage to do it the pro way. And this is how it gets done in the real world. So let's start off with this sequence, but I'm going to copy paste it, and then I'm going to call this Pro, and I'm going to call this Rookie. And let's bring this into Resolve folder. And now we're under our Pro folder. Let's close these out. Okay, so this is what usually happens. Since we have our picture lock edit intact right here, it's basically non-destructive. Okay, this sequence right here, so we can do anything with it. It doesn't matter if we're prepping it in for Resolve. What you usually want to send over to Resolve, a lot of the times audio files don't even come out to Resolve. What you send is you literally get rid of, you hold down Option and you get rid of all of that. Gone. We don't need that. We just go delete tracks, and I'm going to say delete empty tracks anywhere on any timeline. Okay, this is preparing your timeline properly for DaVinci Resolve for the onlining process. And now I don't need any of the graphics. So are all these pink tracks are my graphics. I don't need any of those. Even these came from After Effects, and I don't need these. So I'm going to put them up. And they're already graded. These are from my iPhone. These are images. I don't need to send these over. These are all, like I said, graded. They're just straight from the iPhone. These are images. I don't need to touch these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on the third layer, And then we are just going to go right here and we're going to delete all of that. We're going to delete our empty tracks. And now this right here, this is the meat. This is everything that I need graded. It's my A roll and my B roll. And this is what I want to send in Resolve, line it up and make sure everything looks good. And then this is what I'm going to grade and then send it back from Resolve. Now, the thing is, for the offline reference that I exported with graphics and everything, that can stay the same because the timeline, the length stays the same. So that's okay. We can still use that as our reference and make sure that nothing else is slipping or sliding by using the techniques that I showed you earlier. So now that this is prepped and ready to go, I can just select this sequence right here, go into File, and let's do the same thing, Export Final Cut 10 XML. And now we're just gonna, the naming convention is right, save it. It's gonna give us that error, or it didn't, because this time we didn't have graphics or anything that was referencing to After Effects. So let's jump back into Resolve. And now we're under timeline. We're gonna right click, we're gonna import our new timeline, Pro timeline. And then we're gonna keep the settings the same, use sizing information, that's okay. And look at this, boom. Guys, did you just see what happened? This is the way you wanna do it. Everything is online, everything looks great. You're ready to go, no errors when stuff was coming in. And that's the difference between the rookie way and the pro way. We're still gonna have to make a few changes, but we're 90% there. So now what we wanna do, let's do the same thing, link offline reference clip, and here's the reference clip. And let's set this to difference, and let's get going from the start. So see that image, remember that image was from After Effects, so we didn't bring it in. This is lining up great. There was another image we didn't bring in. This is lining up great. All our B-roll is lining up great. A-roll looks good. Lining up great. So these shots are not lining up. Again, we have to do the same thing what we did previously and adjust them. So basically cancel this out, go down, turn this into fill, go back up, move it over, and boom, that's a match. Go here, cancel, go down, fill it, that's a match. Okay, we're done. Everything else looks good. And that's it. So that's the pro way of doing it, which is what I recommend. So if we just go back in Premiere one more time, guys, you're just gonna take off all your graphics and you're gonna take off your audio layers and you're just gonna leave the meat, the stuff that you need to grade in DaVinci Resolve. So the more work you do here, the easier it's gonna be in here. And then once you're in Resolve, you grade your footage, you export it, and you bring it back into Premiere. And let's just do that. Let's say this is graded, okay? So let's go to delivery page. Let's say we did the color and it's done. Now we're in our delivery page. And if you wanna bring it in, just how it came in here with all these cuts and everything, not as a single file, we can do that, it's possible. So you go under delivery or deliver, go under the deliver page and then grab this slider right here and go all the way to the right and you're gonna go to Premiere XML, okay? Leave everything as is, you don't need to mess with it. Just select this and everything else is set up automatically and it's good to go. You don't have to mess with any of that. You can even leave these as is for this particular project. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna go into my course material, conform color from Resolve. This time we're gonna do from Resolve and let's actually call this NAB Resolve 16. Okay. And now it's spitting out individual clips with source name, so everything else looks good. Add to render queue. We're ready to go. Okay, so look what's going to happen. Once it's done, what you need to do is go back into Premiere. Now you're going to go into your From Resolve and you're going to go File, Import. And what you're going to do is go and track that down where everything was exported right here, and you're going to bring in the XML. Once you bring in the XML, it's going to bring in the entire folder with all the clips that are graded. And what you need to do is you're going to open up the sequence, and it's always going to have Resolve in parentheses, and that means it's coming from Resolve. So as I said, let's just say that this was the graded version. So a lot of the times what's going to happen is that this graded version, the way it gets reassembled into your footage is one or two ways. One, you're going to put these two tracks. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy paste this, and you're going to take it back, put it in here, and call it colored, and then open this up. And there's two things that you can do. One, you can create two tracks. We can go here, we can copy all this, we can go right here, we can paste it right on top. And those are our graded clips. And if I disable this clip, look at the bottom clip and the top clip are exactly the same. The reason why we can't see the difference is because I didn't grade the top clip, but if it was graded, nothing is slipping and sliding. It's perfect. It's a perfect match. And that's one way to do it, where you want to keep each clip the same way. The second way to do it would be check this on so it comes in as a sequence. And then I'm just going to grab this, and we don't need audio, so check this off. And I'm just going to grab this and drop it right here. And now it's coming in as a sequence. So basically it's nested. But if I turn this off and on, again, there is no shift. It's perfect. It's a perfect match. And if you want to keep it streamlined and clean and tidy, this is another way to do it. And then if you ever want to get in here and make changes, you can double click on it and then get inside and make your changes as you wish. So we just went through the entire round trip process for sequences that contain graphics and B-roll, and we did it the rookie way, and then I showed you the pro way of doing it. Now I'm going to show you the second method, which is Bacon Blade. The first way is going to be the rookie way, and then the second way is going to be my preferred method, the pro way. So let's get going. Now for Bacon Blade, I'm going to go ahead and just create another folder inside footage. And in those folders, I'm going to create subfolders, rookie and pro. And then it's going to make more sense as we go along and as I show you why I created these folders. So let's go back into Premiere. And what I want to do is let's go back to our rookie timeline. Basically, Bacon Blade is where we export a single file from Premiere Pro. Then we scene cut it inside Resolve. We color grade it, and then we export that back into Premiere Pro, and then everything gets assembled inside Premiere Pro. So for that method, what you need to do is export a QuickTime highest format file from here. So in my case, this was shot on Canon C200 in 8-bit, and a bunch of this stuff was shot with an iPhone, which is also 8-bit. So for me, ProRes 422 is sort of like an overkill because this is 10-bit. If something is shot in 8-bit, you can't just bump it up to 10-bit in post. But just to be safe, I'm going to leave it in 422 HQ. I'm going to go to my Resolve right here, create a new folder called Bake and Blade. And then let's just drop this in with the same title, Rookie, and let's export it. All right, so now that we have this exported in ProRes, we can bring it in Resolve and get going. So let's go navigate to our Bacon Blade, and then this is what you need to do when you're bringing in a baked footage that was exported from Premiere Pro or any editor. You're going to go in here and select Scene Cut Detection. So that's the method. Make sure you don't skip that. Click on Scene Cut Detection and hit this guy right here, Auto Scene Detect, and usually it does a pretty good job. It's going to go ahead and predict where the cuts should be. So since this is the rookie way, let me show you why this is not the preferred way to export a file from Premiere Pro. So you see what's happening here? Because we exported it with transitions and graphics, it's going to come in like that, and it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for Resolve to pick up on where the actual clip is revealing compared to where the transitions are ending. So it's going to do things like that. Now, what's going to happen is that when you're grading, because it's a baked in file, your color is going to be affecting the transition too. And this is a no-go. This can't work. But I wanted to show you guys this because a lot of you are probably doing this. If you already know what scene cut is, you are running into this problem. And I wanted to show you what not to do by showing you what you might be doing. So everything else is looking good. Same thing, it's happening here. And then this is where it trips out sometimes, like where if there's a few changes that are happening within the same shot, it can't think that it's a different shot. So it's going to start adding cuts. And to get rid of these cuts, there's a couple of ways that you can go about it. But anytime you see 3 shots on the same screen, that's not good. That means that Resolve failed to cut at the right place. So to correct that, this right here is what you have to do. So first of all, let me just show you how to navigate through here. So what I'm using right now are the keys N and P, and you can see it on your screen. So this is how I'm navigating. P is for previous and N is for next. So that's how I'm navigating right now. So when I go to this next, I can do 2 things. I can hit delete and remove this cut right here. But the easiest and the best way is to use the shortcuts. And those are minus and plus. Minus is for removing the cut, and plus would be to add a cut. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this cut. I'm going to remove this one, keep removing it until we go to this. And now we're good. So now it goes from, if I go previous, we go from here to here. This is good. Let's keep moving along. This again, there's not really a fix here. So we're going to leave it as is, keep going. And again, as soon as we see 3 of the same thing, hit minus, keep hitting it, keep going. There you go. So like, let's go to previous, next. Again, it did it again. So minus, minus, this is the same shot. So previous, next, this looks good. And that's it. So we have total of 35 shots. Let's add them to our queue. And then once you add them, cross it out. So now this right here, what I want to do is right click and say create new timeline using selected clips. And let's just call it NAB Resolve 16 Rookie. Let's call it Bake and Blade B&B Rookie. And there you go. And let's move this to our timeline so we can keep everything clean. And now if I go right here, we can see that there's a little XML on the files that were round tripped into Resolve. And then the file that we created a timeline for inside Resolve for the Bacon Blade has a different icon. So basically now if I open this timeline, you can see all these cuts, okay? And obviously this was brought in the rookie way, the wrong way. So that's why we have this situation going on. But besides that, everything else, let's just do this. If I were to link our offline and turn this on. So anytime we have this situation, so let's bring in our offline and look what's happening. So, you know, don't freak out when this happens. This is what that means. That means that the start timecode is off. And I'll tell you why. Because anytime you create a timeline inside DaVinci Resolve, it's going to start at 1 hour. Whereas if I go to my reference clip right here and look at the start timecode, it's 00. So to fix that or offset that, it's super easy. I'm going to go in here into my timeline. I'm going to right click on my timeline and I'm going to say starting timecode right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and change that to 0. Hit enter. Everything is good. And we just solved that problem. And if I do difference, there's going to be no difference because everything is spot on. That's the beauty of Bacon Blade. When you bring stuff in as a ProRes from Premiere Pro, everything is going to line up and everything is going to be perfect. And that's why it's a very popular way in the commercial world. So now let's go back into Premiere Pro and let's bring this in the Pro way. Let's go into our Pro timeline. We already prepped it up. And this is exactly the same way as we did for our XML for the round trip. You prep your footage the same way. You strip off any color correction or camera LUTs that you might have applied in Premiere Pro on your footage. You got to take that stuff off, and you got to send only the A roll and B roll without any transitions. You got to send out a clean cut to DaVinci Resolve, and then scene cut it there, color grade it, and export a single file from DaVinci back into Premiere, drop the graphics on, and then export your deliverable from Premiere Pro. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this timeline, which is clean and prepped for our bacon blade. We're going to export this again. QuickTime ProRes HQ is great. Let me just find the destination. Pro is good, and let's just call it, yep, let's call it B&B, Bacon Blade. And let's export it. Okay, so it's exported. Let's move over to DaVinci Resolve. And now what we want to do is go back to Media, and let me do this and see. So here's my Pro, which has no transitions, no graphics, nothing. It's a clean A roll and B roll with no LUTs, nothing applied to it. I'm going to go ahead and right click and say scene cut and go ahead, cut it. So this time it didn't bring in any transitions, which means that we have hard cuts everywhere, which is going to make it really nice to grade it in here. We still brought in some of those clips that we had issues with, the white clips. So I can come in here, hit next. And again, this is good, and start hitting, removing these. We're good. Let's move on again. Okay, so anytime this happens, I just made a mistake and I deleted one extra shot. What you want to do is you want to click somewhere around here and then just use your arrows to go back, okay? And this is what we want to go to. We want to come to this, and now we want to hit plus to add a cut. Now that I added a cut, let's go to previous. This looks good. Let's go to next. This looks good. We just corrected our mistake. Now let's hit minus and take this out. Take this out. We're good. And that's it. So now we have 20 shots. Let's bring them in. We added them in the wrong spot. We didn't want it to add them here, but that's okay. It's all selected, so we can just move them into our Pro. And now all the Pro clips should be in here. I can just select these, right click, and do nab resolve 16 B&B Pro start. I don't know if I really need to do start and end on these, since the beauty of the Bacon Blade is that once you get your cut in, it's good to go. You don't really have to fiddle with it as you would with round trip. And now let's just right click timeline. Let's go in here, select that, and let's not forget that our timing is going to be off. The starting time, we have to set it to 00. And now if we go to edit, and if we go through, we can see that, you know, all the graphics stuff didn't come through. We didn't bring that in, but everything else is here. Everything else is scene cut, lined up, and look at even the repos. Because if I just click right here, do the difference, you can see everything is perfect. Obviously, the graphics doesn't come in, so that's the difference that it's showing us. But here, everything is spot on. We can literally just go through and see anything that's going to jump out is going to be the stuff, the graphics on top, but everything else should match perfectly. We're ready to go. And now let's just say, you know, I don't know, let's just give it some color, something, so then we can see the difference. So let's say I do something like that, give it some saturation so we know that we did something here. And let's just open this up and apply this across the board to all of these clips. So then when we go back, we will be able to see what was graded and what wasn't. All right, so let's just say we graded all our footage. We're ready to send it back. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go to ProRes Master. And once you select a ProRes Master, it's going to see your timeline and set everything up, do those settings. So this is a 4K timeline, so set it up to 4K. ProRes HQ is looking good. This is all great. It already even selected a single clip. to send out instead of individual clips, since this is not a round trip, this is a bake and blade, and we can just browse. And now I just want to go into the correct folder from Resolve, NAB16. Let's just create a folder called B&B Bake and Blade in here. And let's just give this timeline a name, and we're going to call it NAB Resolve 16 B&B Pro from Resolve. Okay. And this is going to be a single file. Let's send it through. Let's hit render. Now this is exported, ready to go. Let's jump back to Premiere Pro. And what we're going to do here is from Resolve, we're going to go right here. We're going to create a folder. Let's create a new bin. Let's just do B&B. Okay, let's do import, go to B&B, grab that one file, bring it in. That file is in. Now what we got to do is, if I were to, so this one that we did was off of our XML, but let's just say if we get rid of this, now we have this file right here that came from Resolve. If I open it up in my source monitor, I can see that it's graded. Okay, and now what I want to do is just grab that, drop it right here on top, and you're going to see the difference, because if I go right here, try to disable this, look, there's no slip and slide. Everything is perfect, but our graded version is right up top. We're ready to go. Everything, all the graphics and everything are on top, and this is exactly how we wanted it. So now we go from here to here, and we go from graphics to back here, and this is obviously graded version on top. Even like if you see right here, if I turn this off and on, see what I mean? And now we're not affecting anything on top because we did it the pro way. And that's it, guys. So this is conforming in a nutshell. I just gave you the practical information, the stuff that you can use in the real world, and things that you should look out for, and how to maximize your efficiency when going from your editor to Resolve and back to your editor. Now, what I just showed you was a perfect example for a sequence that had graphics and B-roll, but didn't really have any repositioning or speed changes. But now what we're about to bring in is a music video where I did do a lot of repos and speed changes. So I'm going to quickly take you through the round trip along with the bake and blade process for those. But this time, I'm not going to show you the rookie way. I'm only going to show you the pro way and take you through what kind of challenges you might face when bringing in something that has speed ramps and tons of repos. So let's take a look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this NAB Resolve 16 under our conform folder, and then I'm going to create a new project called Next to You, which is the name of the music video. And let's jump inside here, create the same folder structure really quick. So we're going to create footage, and we're going to have two more folders inside here. One is going to be called Bake and Blade. The other one is going to be Round Trip. Then I'm going to create a offline ref, and let's put that under master, and let's create another folder called timeline. And now we're set. Let's save this really fast. Let's go to round trip. Let's jump over here in our Premiere project. Let me close this project really quick and open up our music video. So let's go Next to You project file, and this is where you're going to find the project file for the music video. It's going to be under conform, Next to You project file. Open it up, and you have to obviously relink the media when you bring everything in on your end. Over here, I have everything linked up. I don't have to worry about that. Let's go to the file. Let me make this, bring everything over to this screen. Okay, so let me go to the edit and go to our cuts. Let's find this cut in our reveal sequence and project. So, okay, it's under to Resolve. So let's do the same thing. Let's copy paste this and call this one to Resolve. Actually, you know what? Since this is going to be pro, we don't even have to name it anything. We can just leave it as is because now we're just sending a pro cut into Resolve. So I know I'm not going to go through the entire thing because I know there were literally no graphics. We had done lots of repos and stuff like that, but nothing really came from After Effects, so I don't have to worry about any of that. And then let's just check what this is. This is just one transition, which we got to turn off. So this one, I'm going to try to do it a different way. I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. So these are from this footage is from iPhone. It's already pretty much graded, but that's okay. We can still bring it in. Okay, so let me just still create another file and let's call this _pro. And let's just bring it in here because I don't want to mess with what's already there. So let's just leave it as is and open this one up. And what we want to do is delete these tracks. We don't need them. We don't need these transitions. Let me go full screen and see everything else looks good. And then also let's just do this, delete tracks and just delete all empty tracks. We don't need anything extra. Music, you know, we can leave it in. It's okay. And this is what I'm going to do. So now this is ready to go. Let's try the XML way first, the round trip, and then we're going to do the bacon blade. So let's go ahead with the round trip. So what we have to do first is export the reference. And let me see if we have the reference exported already. Let's go to color, to color. And let me just go through. Okay, so we already have a reference exported, so I don't need to export that. But obviously, you know the drill now. You have to export a offline reference. So in this case, all we have to do is we're ready to go. Let's select this right here. Go to File, Export, Final Cut Pro XML. That's what we got to kick out. Let's go to Next to You, Color 2, and let's do, it's already set to Pro. Let's kick this baby out. It's going to give us some errors. It's okay. Let's go to Resolve. We're ready to bring this baby in. Now, this is what I want to show you. So I want to link this. Let's just say if this was edited with offline footage, meaning if you're working with RED or Alexa footage or something like that, and your computer is not too fast and you want to work with offline files meaning transcoded files, so you can work really fast without any hiccups. That is a possibility, and that happens a lot of the times. So let's just say if this footage was transcoded footage and we want to link it to the raw footage, this is what's going to happen. So you're going to go into Resolve, and what you're going to do is under round trip, you're going to bring in the footage manually, and I'm going to show you how. So let's go in here. Let's go in here. Next to You, Media, Camera, Original, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to right click on this, and we're going to say add folder and subfolders into media pool, create bins, and look what it's going to do. And we're going to say, fine, change it. So select change. And now this is what it did. It brought in everything as is, as you see right here in our Finder level. So it brought everything in. All right, so what you want to do is now that we brought in all our camera original footage, we're going to right click here and import our XML that we exported from Premiere Pro. What needs to happen here is we want to say, do not automatically import source clips because we don't want offline files, transcoded media. We want raw footage that we brought in, and we want to force our XML to link with this. And then we want to do use sizing information. That's okay, but we don't want it to automatically set the project settings. Okay, leave that as is, hit okay. And now we're going to go ahead, we're going to check this off, and we're going to check round trip on, hit okay. It's going to bring in our footage, and there you go. Okay, it's looking good. But is it really looking good? We don't know. So it didn't bring in our song. That's okay. Let's not worry about that. You can bring in and relink your song, but I'm not going to be finishing in here. I'm going to be exporting this back to Premiere. So all I worry about is color correction, not this. So I'm not going to worry about that. What I will do right now is go in here and let's go to Resolve. And this is our reference clip. So right click, add to offline reference. Let's go to our timeline, right click and link offline reference to this. And now click on this little guy, hit offline, and let's just go through and make sure everything is looking good. So far, so good. So this is kind of unusual because a lot of the times if you're doing a lot of repos and speed ramps in Premiere, usually those things don't get translated 100% when you bring it into Resolve, but they're always improving XMLs with latest updates. So I'm not sure if that's what's happening, but so far things are looking pretty spot on. And the only time that things are not looking right is because if you see on the left-hand side, we're using effects. We're using a proprietary Premiere Pro effect to add that camera shake. So Resolve is using their camera shake effect to kind of mimic that, but it's not that close, so it's not doing that. So in a case like this, you're just literally going to have to turn that effect off in Premiere Pro, or you can just grade your footage, take that in, make a note, and then reapply the camera shake effect in Premiere Pro to get that movement that you had in Premiere. See, so anytime there's a see, so even this one has a shake, so it's going to be a little off, but the rest is going to be spot on. So I'm actually very, very impressed what's happening here. Wow. I mean, I'm super impressed. I did not prep this up before I brought it in. This is like a real-time experience. I'm experiencing this with you, and I am blown away how spot on this thing is. Wow. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. So this whole thing is just bang on. And not to mention, it's linked to our raw footage right here. So in this round tripping process, I showed you how to bring in your media inside Resolve first, camera original media, and then bring in your XML from Premiere Pro and force link everything to your camera original. And now it's going to be the same method. We're going to go under delivery and we can export this as a Premiere XML and bring it in. But since I already showed you that method in our NAB Resolve 16 round tripping process, I'm not going to do that again. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to Premiere Pro. And this time we're going to export. We're going to go to our Pro and we're going to export this entire thing and then scene cut it and see how Resolve does. So let's go ahead and export this in ProRes HQ. That's looking good. This time we're going to do a bacon blade. Let's go to color to bacon blade. Pro, this is looking good. Let's just throw BNB in there so we know what this is. And let's export it. All right, our bacon blade single file export is done and ready for DaVinci Resolve. So now what I'm going to do is let's go right here and let's go into our BNB, and this is where our BNB profile is that we just exported. So we're going to right click on that and do a scene cut. Let Resolve do its thing. Good. 290 shots. Should be less than that. So let's go through it. Because I did like a little traditional music video pops in between, so there's going to be a lot of these. So we don't need that. We just need we need this entire sequence to be one thing. So anytime we see this, what you want to make sure is that you want 2 shots of the same thing on the right side. And anytime you don't see that, you should just cut that out. So let's go next. This is not right, so I'm going to hit minus. This is right. Go next. Not right. Minus. Right. So let's keep going with this. This is good. This is good. And now let's keep going. Anytime I'm going to see anything. So anytime you see a lens flare like that, this is a very common one where Resolve will completely miss that and add a cut there. So just take it out manually. That's going to keep happening with lens flares. See? So you're going to get used to it once you start using this. You're going to get a feel for it. But definitely use keyboard shortcuts. Like, look at how fast I'm going. If you weren't using that, like, it will add a lot of time and just make the entire process very cumbersome. It's all about efficiency when it comes to color grading, guys. You got to save your time from doing the dirty work so you can spend the time doing the creative work. Anytime I'll catch something, I'll stop, but I'm pretty fast at this. Okay, so I, by mistake, cut a good shot, positive. So let's go back and arrow forward. And I cut this shot out by mistake. So let's go ahead and add it back in by hitting plus. Let's keep going. So this has got to go. This has got to go. Okay, this has got to go. So this is it. So we're down to 222 shots. Sounds about right. Let's bring it in. And it came into our timeline, but it's all selected and clumped together. So let's just move it into BNB. Okay. Let's move over to BNB, select everything, right click it, and call it next to you, BNB from Resolve. And then let's move the timeline over here. And if I click on this timeline, and let's just link it to our offline, and same thing is going to happen. We're just going to have to go back here and make that 0, and then that should link up. Everything links up now. Let me just do difference to make sure everything is good. There are no surprises. Everything looks perfect. Let's turn this off. Great. We're ready to go. Again, once you're done, export a ProRes master single file, bring it in Premiere Pro, and you're done. Now I want to share this advanced tip with you when you're doing bacon blades. So sometimes your clients won't be as savvy and they give you a cut and it still has some crossfades and you don't want to just keep bugging them. And so what's the workaround? If you were to color this shot, what happens to in between here? Okay, so first thing, we're going to do the same thing, scene cut detection, let it do its magic, and it went ahead and added these cuts. Now here's the problem, watch this, okay? Anytime there's a crossfade, Resolve freaks out and adds all these cuts, okay? So this is not what we want. And then, see, it's doing that again. But then here, it's perfect. So this cut we do want. This one we want as well. Now there's multiple ways to do it. One way would be to change the sensitivity. And if I take this threshold and bring it up, it's going to avoid everything underneath. And now if I go here and do next, it's only grabbing those shots and it's avoiding this. But that's not always going to work. So let me just show you the crazy way. So one, I already showed you, you can just do this, and that's one advanced tip. And now it just, whatever is green is active, and that's what it's going to use. It's showing you here, and then it's going to ignore all of this. But let's just say if we go back and our life is not as easy as we think that it can be. Now what we can do here is I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to start subtracting all the crossfades cuts, okay? I don't want to grab them. So I'm manually now doing what Resolve failed to do, okay? So I'm going to remove all of these. I'm going to keep going. I'm just looking at it here and there. And then when we get to this, I'm going to go next, and then I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Now I'm going to show you a really cool technique, okay? So now this is all we got. Let's hit bring that footage in. Let's grab these 3 clips, right click, and let's just create a timeline. And now I want to show you something really quick. Okay, so let's just do, now we see that it goes from here into this shot, into that shot. So this is what I need you to do. Under your edit page, you're going to manually go to that section where it is right in the middle before it cuts, like right in the middle here. And then what we want to do is we're just going to do Command B. We're going to add a cut. We're going to click right here and we're going to do a crossfade. And now you're going to repeat this process. You're going to come right here, select the clip, click in the middle, Command T for cross dissolve. We're going to do it one more time. Select the clip in the middle, Command T, and then we're going to let the rest play out. Now watch this. So it broke these up, which means now I see different shots here. And now the beauty is when I do my grading, so if I grade this shot, I go here, this is obviously a different shot now. So we can grade it however we want, add a little blue, like whatever, just to see the difference. And we move on to this shot. Let's do some work here. Bring this down. Warm it up. And then I move on to this shot. And I can just change it a little bit. So something like that. Okay. So now we have these 4 different shots, right? And there's crossfades in between. But when I play it through, watch, you're not going to notice anything because those crossfades are helping smooth out the transition between one grade to another. Watch this. So here are 2 quick tips to tackle footage that comes in with transitions in DaVinci Resolve. So we pretty much covered everything in terms of conforming, whether it's bake and blade or round trip, whether we're dealing with graphics, B-roll, or speed ramps or repos. I showed you every possible way, and also I took you through what not to do and what to do. Unfortunately, neither of these ways are ideal. Round trip is flexible, but very time consuming and prone to errors. Bake and blade is straightforward, but super limiting and doesn't leave room for further changes. Here's my prediction. I'm giving it 5 years before all the major agencies in the United States move to DaVinci Resolve as their end-to-end post-production solution. And I say this because I see it all the times, it being one of the biggest problems and bottlenecks, where you're taking offline footage, bringing it into Resolve using round trip, and then it's taking days to conform it. And then there's still something that happens somewhere along the way. Or you're doing the bake and blade process, and then you finish it in Resolve, scene cut it and everything, you spit it out, and then the director or producer go, hey, can we add this shot? Can we do this and that? And then that becomes a big challenge. So I will highly encourage you to start suggesting to your clients to use DaVinci Resolve as their main editor. And the case is really simple. Once you explain to them the shortcomings of round trip and bake and blade, it starts to make sense. And the easiest way to win this argument, if you tell them that how much time they're going to be saving and how much money they're going to be saving by not going through Conform and the traditional routes that we discussed in this tutorial. My second recommended option has to be Bake and Blade. It's just so simple and effective, and it's going to save you a lot of headaches in a long run. Guys, I'm going to end every single module by saying this. You have to apply what you're learning as you go. I wouldn't recommend just going through all the modules and then start practicing. I would say as you're doing this, go pull up your project, try both of these techniques, come up with your own conclusion. This will help you understand what to and what not to do. And there's literally no requirements or excuses for this. You can just take your iPhone, shoot 16 shots, bring it into Premiere Pro, whatever, and then cut them, throw some music on it, and then apply these 2 methods that I showed you so you can understand how it works. And just remember, hit me up if you have any issues. I will personally walk you through the entire process.